Have you ever tried to bring about change in your life and it felt like a real uphill battle? Today I've got my buddy Paul Sharp of SBG Gym, of Paul Sharp Coaching on, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that he helps his students, the people that he coaches and mentors, get to that next level. And we're also going to dig into some topics like where in the heck the phrase blowing smoke up your ass came from. Let's dig right in. Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Well, hey all, welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. I've got my good friend Coach Paul Sharp on today from Idaho. You're in Boise today, I do believe, sir.
Yes.
So Paul is known for his life as a former exotic dance instructor. He saw the light and changed careers. And no, I'm just kidding. You've been on with us before. Many people that know me know that I work with you. You're a country boy turned law enforcement officer turned MMA fighter. Now you're a jiu-jitsu and kind of MMA judo coach and life coach.
Yes.
And what else would you add in there? You're kind of a psychopath with your weird exercise things that I want to talk about.
I guess, yeah. I mean, like all of us, like everybody in our circle, father first, and then trying to be a decent man, a good man. I think those supersede everything else we do. And then all the other titles that we earn over the years are just a result of that. So,
what's a good man?
Man, I think a lot about that. I know we've talked about it a lot. You talk about it a lot when you do your classes. You talk to the guys about that. And I think it's somebody who's true to, has their code, kind of their standard that they live to, and they're true to that no matter what it costs them personally and professionally. I think being a brother, being there for your people, being an asset to your people, being an example, being someone that inspires others, but also someone that they would aspire to be, not being, the stereotypical doctor who's smoking a cigarette and overweight, but telling you need to quit smoking and lose weight, but actually being who you say you are, no matter what it's going to cost you. I think that's a good man. I think I think the pursuit of excellence. I think just valuing excellence, even if you don't appreciate what it is. Like, there's no way. Like, I see you cook amazing food and roasting coffee beans and all these things. There's no way. I mean, there is a way, right, that I could probably over time become a good cook, but it's just not something I'm motivated or fired up to do. But at the same time, I can see it and appreciate it and see that there's excellence in that and be like, man, that's really cool. That makes me proud to be Mickey's friend because Mickey's capable in these areas, as opposed to the other side of that, which is a French word. I'm going to butcher it. It's ressentiment. I'm going to butcher it, but it was first coined by Nietzsche way back in the day, which is basically a psychological condition where you abhor and are envious of anyone who's doing well or does anything well. You just have this hatred and you allow it to fester. And I would think that would be the opposite. So if we're going to figure out what is a good man, we have to figure out, well, what's a bad man? What's a terrible example of manhood and masculinity? And I would say that first.
I don't want to be that.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy that's envious, the guy that's hateful, spiteful, has negative things to say. I want to be the opposite of that. And so that means, too, if it's someone who has done me wrong, but they're still good at something, and we've both been in construction. You have those guys you have that mason, not to like put all masons in the same thing, but you got like that block layer that just, man, his lines are straight, plumb. It's beautiful. His work is excellent, but he's just a train wreck. He gets the jitters by 10. He has to drink, all those things. You've seen that guy. And,
Sure.
and like, as much as I might not like his personal life habits, I can still be appreciative and inspired by the excellence in what he does do well,
Hmm.
and not waste any time tearing him down or Xing him out from possibilities because of this other thing. If that makes sense, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it's coming across well, but I think that's it. It's just be the opposite of what is all the things that are wrong that you would see in a man and think that's terrible. I would never want to
Hmm.
be that. I would never want to be petty, all that stuff.
I was just listening to book on Audible, not on tape, on Audible. I don't think there is any tapes. It was Vince Lombardi's son wrote it about his dad. I know there's 1,000 books about Vince, and it's kind of interesting because it's told through the eyes of his son,
Yeah.
and um, it's like basically like a leadership book written by his kid, and he kind of talks about my dad didn't really write a lot. He didn't. There wasn't like a lot of stuff that he did that was kept for posterity. At that time, there was no cell phones and computers and all that stuff. But he gave this speech, right? Vince had this one speech that the kid gave the speech in the book. And he said, my mother used to joke that she had heard the speech 10,000 times because every dinner, banquet, whatever, it was the same speech on basically like being a good person. And
Yeah.
the mother said she'd heard it 10,000 times, but every time it like moved her to tears when he got to the wrap up. And it was like these
Yeah.
very simple, basic principles, but you just touched on one. And in that speech, I don't, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but basically, like, we'll never have anything as a society until personal excellence is like important to people. And
Yes.
because if it's not, what else is there?
Yeah.
If I don't care about how I think or feel or what I do, then why the hell should my neighbor or why should my kids?
Right.
It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, interesting reading that, and it's just the same. It's the same things over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, it's always going to be that same thing. And I think it's an essential part, not exclusive to masculinity, but if we talk about like the energies and all that good stuff, like there is a definitive feminine energy, right? And they're like
Mhm.
like the stereotypical, like that's a mom, and then there's
Oh
the
yeah.
definitive masculine energy. And I think that has always been a part of the masculine energy, has always been that appreciation for excellence and the striving to achieve excellence. That's why we're inspired by our modern day mythical characters, which would be whether it's a warrior, some great decorated, highly decorated,
Audie Murphy or something like that.
yeah, something like that, or like our sports guys.
Mhm.
Everybody, like, they're inspired by these guys. They want their kids to grow up to be like them. They want to be like them in some way. And I think it's just in us to see excellence and then want to achieve it. And I think the problem is when we deny that, then that's where we start to run into those issues where it becomes kind of that psychological issue of, well, he's must be nice, right? I love that.
Mhm.
Must be
Mhm.
nice.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it is. It probably would be nice to be 6'4" and 230 pounds, which is the typical point guard in the NBA, and with a great wingspan and good sprint speed and good, agility and all that. Like, yeah, that would be wonderful. But I can optimize what I do have, and while also appreciating what they were given just by luck of genetics. And I can look at it and go, hey, that's awesome. And I can tell my son or my daughter that if you work hard, you will maximize your potential and be whatever you were designed to be, without ever saying to them, must be nice. It's you just didn't win the luck of the draw. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. Like, that to me is where we lose the trail, when we get
Mhm.
off into, we allow ourselves, and we've all felt it, at least I have. I've rolled with people who are just naturally good, just amazingly good. I rolled with a guy recently who got his black belt in like 6 years or something crazy, competed literally every weekend, just drove all over the country. One of those guys, just dedicated to competing, sharpening the edge, trying to be as good as he can, and had a chance to roll with him. And his timing, his sense of where you are in relation to where he is in relation to the mat and all that stuff was just amazing. Like he was always in the right place at the right time to beat you. And there's
Like
a
a good
part where I'm
jazz
like,
musician.
what's that?
Like a jazz musician or a classical musician,
Yeah.
just so on tune with everything going on.
Yeah. Just that art of, yeah, the art of improvisation, right? And just to witness that, there's a side of you that wants to kind of bubble up and go, well, yeah, he's 20 some years old, in great shape, all he has to do in life is roll. Of course he's going to be better than me. Yeah, like there's truth to that. But is that really the voice I want to say to the world? Is that the side of me I want to express to the world? Or do I want to say, man, this dude's phenomenal. You need to get some rounds with him. Like you need to train with this guy. Like he's awesome. Just to feel it for a second, just to see what it's like to sit inside a supercar and go 200 miles per hour into a turn and come out of the turn right back at 200 miles per hour. Like what's that like? And I think that's kind of the danger. I think it exists in all of us, that appreciation for that desire to have that, but then also the tendency to say, well, must be nice. And then make excuses for ourselves as to why we're not doing it. So yeah, it's interesting. It makes me
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it just makes me think a lot about how I've been throughout my life and how I want to be moving forward, as far as like being an example, being better,
I started this series of videos on the YouTube channel that are like instructor centric,
I like those.
10-minute things. And thank you. I had a guy comment on there. I was going to ask you your opinion. He asked a question on one of the recent ones, and he said, what like tips, techniques, tricks can I use to help my students build confidence? And I was like, well, tell me more about what you're meaning there. Oh, hey there. I'm getting coffee delivered.
Nice.
Is that fresh cream? Did you make it? Nice. Enjoy the little things.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. Some local cream from the co-op in town.
Oh, that's cool. The Communist Center, the co-op.
Wow. So I was like, tell me more about what you're talking about. And then it was a little different response than I was expecting. He said, well, how can I basically send them home feeling good about themselves, was kind of how I interpreted it. And I was like, well, I'm not interested in that at all, really. But talk about that a little bit. Like, I know if some lady comes to your jujitsu gym that's never done grappling, you're not going to beat her up and be like, hope she come back tomorrow. So there's definitely like levels and layers and things, but just talk about that kind of mindset a little bit.
Yeah, I think that training should be in an everyday training environment. So if somebody's coming to me and they're going to be training with me 2-3 times a week, they've signed up and they've committed to a year or 6 months or whatever. So I know they're going to be here. I can take them through the progression, and I can kind of, Jill calls it midwife them, where you just kind of talk them through the pain points and you just allow them to understand that this is natural. This is a part of it, and this is something you're going to experience and you're going to see other people experience. So just go into it, lean into it, and enjoy the process. If it's somebody that I'm seeing once in a while, meaning they come to a class one time, I want them to leave that class with an introduction to reality. If they come to that class and they have a set way of doing things, but it's not working in the class, then that's an indicator. Moving forward, you need to do something different. Like training should be a wake-up call and should also be a vetting process for our practice moving forward. If I go to your class and we're shooting at 200 yards to confirm 0 or 100 yards to confirm 0, and I just was like steadfast to you that, hey, I've got a 25-yard 0. I don't need to test it out there. It's good to go. And you've had those guys, right? And then typically what happens when we stretch it out to 100 or 200 yards? Like, well, okay, well, it's a 25, so then it's a 300, right? That 25, 300 thing, or 50, 200. So, but then you have the 25 targets you can use to 0 on a 25-yard range. And so you've zeroed your gun at 25 yards. You know it's good. Let's stretch it out to 200. And then when we get up to 200, they're all over the place. Or they got it. Maybe they have a good group, but it's all left and low. Well, guess what, man? Moving forward, this should indicate to you that you need to confirm your 0. You have to walk the ground. A lot of guys, long range shooters will say, you got to walk it, man. Like, you can confirm here, you can shoot here, but you got to walk it. And so that to me is where that comes in. Like, I need that moment of like, oh crap, I thought I was good. I thought my 0 was good, but here we are finding out the hard way. Thankfully, before it was legit, that my beliefs were wrong. And so moving forward, my practice from now on will be any rifle I 0, I'm going to confirm. I'm going to walk the ground and I'm going to find a way to confirm it at the 200 and 300 and on out. And I think it's the same with training. If I come to your class, I want you to put me through the process of, like you do the things where you make people get up and down and move around and switch side to side, and they shoot from compromised positions, or I guess you would call it compromise, right? Like, it's not optimal.
No.
It's like, if I'm on my side and I'm bracing the gun between my legs to make a hit, that's not optimal, right?
No, it's definitely not standing flat-footed, mobile.
Yeah, and everything's going great, and I can see my sights perfectly, and
it's like It's like being a guard puller with a pistol, basically. Show up at a USPSA match, and as the timer goes off, just drop to your ass and start shrimping around.
Just butt scooting. I got it. But it's things like that where, okay, so now this exposes me to a lot of deficiencies in my game. Maybe I'm having an issue getting off the ground. Well, what can I do to fix that? Maybe I need to be more mobile. Maybe I need to move more. We know as you age, if you stop moving, you start dying. So keep moving. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's the gear I'm wearing. Maybe my gear is not optimized for this kind of stuff. Whatever it is, that should indicate moving forward. That failure point, that pain point, should indicate moving forward changes that have to occur. And then I put it into practice. And then I go back and test again and see, does that pain point still exist? Okay, cool. You need to have that pain. You got to have that pain. Like, to your example of the say I have a 60-year-old woman who comes to jiu-jitsu, and maybe I go old school Gracie, right? Like, I'm going to show you the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu. I'm going to mount and hold you down, and you can't get out. And then you're going to mount me, and I'm going to trap and roll. And then you're going to be wowed by the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu. Maybe, but maybe you're also going to be just demoralized because you realize I'm 60 years old. It's late to be starting this thing, and I probably am never going to figure it out. So I'm just going to quit and go back to my comfort zone. Or I can bring you in there and I can have you go through the movements. I can teach you some basic things. I can show you how this works. Put you with somebody who is a good training partner, who can work with you, is not going to demolish you, not going to hurt you. And then over a period of 3-4 weeks, I can build you up to a point to where you believe that if you can get this foot to this position, this elbow to this position, you can start to make something happen no matter how bad it looks. And I can also scale the resistance up on the part of your training partner, where they dial it up on you so that by the end of those 3 or 4 weeks, you're almost, or maybe you are going all out in this positional role where you are escaping mount, resetting and doing it again. And at the end of an hour, you've escaped mount 100, 200 times from somebody trying to hold you down. And now that's a different beast. That's someone who believes, if I have a plan, I can accomplish the objective, I can do this. That's a totally different person. So I think I don't want people leaving feeling like feeling good. I
Mm.
want them feeling inspired and motivated in whatever form that takes. I want them leaving feeling like I need to get to work. These are the things I need to work on. A clear cut plan, so that they know it's not hopeless. There is a plan in place. You're going to work on these things, and the next time I see you, you'll be better.
There's
So
definitely some fine lines there. Like I know a couple of guys, one of them a coach friend of ours, that everything is you're doing so good. Paul, that was great. Paul, you're doing so awesome. Dude, that looks bro, I was watching you out there. That looked good, dude. And that's like everything. And like everybody else is like, what the fuck are you looking at?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. That was
that's like
terrible.
Jedi stuff here. He's seeing something I'm not even like, it's so beyond me. I don't even know what he's seeing. He's seeing some like auras and stuff going on
Yeah,
out there. But then the
yeah,
person is like, oh, I feel so good. And
yeah.
then
No, see, you can't do that, because then I genuinely feel like you have to have a love for what you're teaching, and you have to have a love for the people you're teaching at some level, right? You have to genuinely care about them and the result they're going to get, because the people we're training, you've had this. I mean, you've been training. Jill and I were talking about it yesterday, related to what we were talking about on the phone a little bit. And she's just like, Mickey has taught at this point, or she said, how many thousands of people do you think Mickey's taught at this point? Between all the classes he teaches, every weekend he's gone, S12, all this stuff. And I said, man, I go, you know what? I've never thought about that, because it's
me
just
neither.
Mickey. It's what's that?
I said, me neither.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just Mickey. Like I don't think about those things. And I said, he's never had to prove, like he's never had to say, here's my CV, like here's my, my background, here's my expertise. So he's never had to validate his opinion to me. But I said, man, that's true. Like we're looking at a guy who's trained since I first met you, which that was that at a Super Dave class, or where
I think it
do
was, yeah, maybe.
yeah. And you were just getting started then. And since that time, you've taught so many people. Like you went from, working with legislative stuff, doing construction stuff, to full-time teaching,
Hmm.
where you're gone every weekend teaching, and your classes are always full. So if you did the math, let's just say, let's just leave it at a low number, 20, just to take out the first years where you're building, right? So we'll say 20 people per class, pretty much every weekend, so that's 52 times 20 times however many years that is, in addition to conferences. Like S12 always has 40, 50 people,
Hmm.
and all the other conferences. That's a that's a ton of experience. That is a boatload.
It's a ton of experience being in front of people. It still doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about, though.
No, right.
I
I'm
mean,
saying,
that's true, though. And that's true, though. I mean, you can work, I could be a college professor for 30 years. It doesn't make you good at it.
yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's kind of like the carpenter thing, right? You can say you're a carpenter with 20 years experience, but we all know it's 1 year repeated 20 times. Like you didn't do
Hmm.
anything new. You framed the same walls the same way for 20 years, bro. You're not a carpenter on the par of a guy who builds some amazing log
Right.
cabin, right? But I think you're not the type person to walk away from a class and not learn something from it. Like you're constantly learning, evolving, all that other stuff. So I just think that there's something to that, where it's there's a there's a depth and breadth of expertise that comes with that level of coaching. And at this point, you have all, like, you wouldn't keep doing it at that pace to that level if you didn't have genuine love and care for the people that are coming to train with you, and for what you're doing, for sharing this expertise with people, sharing this capability with people, like this desire to be a capable, like Z says, a capable citizen,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
this desire to be an asset to our community. And so I think that's a big part of it. because you're going to have these people come back to you later, and you've already had this where people come back and are like, hey man, my life changed. I lost all this weight. I
Sure.
became a better person. Or maybe I saved a kid's life, or I saved my own life, or I saved a family member's life in an emergency situation. And so in order to do that, and in order to be authentic, and this is not a slam on, the cheerleader type instructors where they're like, everything you do is awesome, but it's like, if I'm not going to lie,
What was that? Everything is awesome. What was that?
Lego, the Lego movie,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Lego movie,
Yeah, I
everything
know
is
what
awesome.
you're
Yeah. But you have to, if you love them, you can't lie to them.
saying.
If they're screwing up, if they're not doing well, you have to tell them. And it's up to them to be receptive. And I would hope that they would be, since they're paying good money to be in the class, time, travel, ammo, or whatever the class is, whatever type class it is. If I really love what I'm doing, I love the art that I'm sharing, I love the skills that I'm sharing, I have a passion for creating more capable people, then I'm also going to have a little bit of love at some level for the people coming to train with me. And based on that, I'm not going to lie to them. If I see them screwing up, I see them doing something, I got to correct them. I got to call them out. And I don't even think it's calling them out. I like using the term, like, I'm calling them up. Like, look, man, come
That's
up
cool.
higher.
Yeah,
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 like,
yeah.
yeah, stop living down there, bro. You can do better. Like, you're squared away, you're good. You can be better. And I think that's fair. I think to me, that's more love than the cheerleader. And
It's an
again,
interesting way of looking at it, calling
yeah,
them up.
yeah, nothing against the cheerleader. I'm good with that.
Brings up another one of Lombardi's points. You can't call them up if you ain't up. Like
Exactly.
he wasn't. I think all those things I was reading about with him, he never thought, like, he wasn't the greatest football player, but he was a good football player himself. But he these are like axioms of leadership. Is you can't. One of the things this was the kind of the gist. Uh, you can't invent something outside of yourself. Like, if I invent something, it's part of me, or I can't create, like, your gym is part of you. It's not, you can't lead people to do something you're incapable of. And
Yeah.
that's like usually the limiting factor. So you can't say, come up here, if you're not up here.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? Like, if I message you on Instagram and I'm like, hey, Mickey, I see you've got a cool Instagram. Let me help you get 10,000 followers. You're like, thanks, bro. Already been there, already done that. What do you, or even better, I tell you, I get these all the time, like in the request thing. And I'll go into the request folder because I don't want to miss messages from people, and that matter, like people that are actually real live
Sure.
people.
I look at
And
that too.
yeah, so I'll go through there and make sure I didn't miss anything. And, I'll have like 50 messages in there from guys that are like, hey, would you like to grow your Instagram account? And sometimes, just out of curiosity, sometimes I'll click on their account just to see. And it's like 50 followers or 0 followers, no posts, 0. I'm like, not today, ISIS. Like, yeah, like, yeah,
Fake it till you make it.
yeah, let me send you my credit card right now, in good faith. But there was
Dearest
something about
beloved
that.
one.
Yeah, I was just talking, Chris Howder was out here, and we were talking about that book, The Death of Expertise, and
Mm.
about some of that, and about the influencer and that whole thing. And we were talking, and Chris was like, there was a whole world of people online who got rich off of telling others how to get rich. Like, they didn't have money, they didn't have anything, they just had a spiel, and they would get people to sign up for their course. They would rent a Lambo, rent a jet, and pretend to be something they weren't, rent a house. And I go, really? And it's funny because, if you know Howder at all, he's kind of got like this OCD, and I say that lightly, with when he gets into something, he's really into it. So he got into figuring out who these influencers are. He was doing a course in LA on how to make a movie on iPhone, which is kind of cool. And because he's an artist, I don't know if you've seen his art, but
Yeah, I've seen his paintings are in Andy and Leah's private gym up in Kalispell, Whitefish. He's
yeah,
got some of them on the wall in there. Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. Chris is gnarly and just, well-rounded guy. So he's way into art.
Which coincidentally for the listeners is who you got your black belt from.
Yeah. So he got way into this, but then he started noticing because he's noticing how these movies are made. And he's realizing that a lot of it is kind of this AI before AI was widely known. And he starts realizing a lot of these guys that are posting these videos of this successful lifestyle, it's not real. It's not real. And the way you can tell is like something will be off in the background. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And he pointed out, he goes, look at this. This is a picture of a guy allegedly in his kitchen, which is ginormous, this expansive kitchen.
Sure.
And this
Mansion.
yeah, the cabinets are all glass doors, right? In the kitchen, there's nothing in them.
He's in a house that is up for sale. Went in there and took a little picture.
Yeah, he like went in there and did a video. So there's this whole world of people that are, they're making their living off of telling you how to make a living or me how to make a living and getting us to send them money. It's interesting when you think about it from what we do, the perspective of what we do, which is we're helping people with potentially life-saving information and skills. We can't fake it. Like we can't BS them. We can't lie to them. We can't, we can encourage them to dig deeper and find that primal side of themselves that wants to live and then develop skills to enhance that. But we can't BS them. If I've got some guy who he's out of breath walking down to pace the target, we're going to have a talk. But I'm going to give him a plan. Like, listen, man, just start walking. Zone 1, simple cardio. Zone 1, every morning, get up, have a cup of coffee, drink a little water, get your shoes on, get out the door. Actually, here's another way I want to help you even more. How about at the night before, you put your shoes by the door, you put your shirt, your pants, whatever you're going to wear, put it right there by the door. Put your alarm clock or your phone, whatever you use to wake up, on the other side of the room, so you have to get up to go turn it off. You're already up, man. Brush your teeth, splash some water on your face, have your coffee already set to go, so all you have to do is turn it on, and then while your coffee's brewing, put your shoes on, put your pants and shirt on, and get out the door and go walk 30 minutes and just enjoy the fresh air. If you can't walk for 30, walk for 5, and every week add 5 more until you're at 60. And then once you're walking an hour a day, your bones, your joints are conditioned to having the weight on them. You're also going to be losing weight. Once you're up to walking an hour a day, hit me up and I'll give you a plan to get you running. And that's what we do if we love them. If we don't love them, we just tell them, we don't say anything to them.
Right.
We just let them continue down that path because they gave us their money. We're good. Right. And I just can't do that.
It's kind of like the same mentality as like the TV faith healers or the bullshit didn't mock, touch people and they fall over. Like, I don't want to say his name and hurt people's feelings, but you used to have banter with him online. He was Combat JKD. And like, buy this cassette tape and learn how to win any street fight. And, it was all like, top secret, never before seen, CIA used it, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I bought some of those when I was 17 years old. I was like, well, hell yeah, I want to win any street fight.
I'll have that. My truck stop katana, my truck stop ninja star. Get out of my way, bro.
But we want easy things like buy into this program. It's only, you go figure out where you're going to get the $2,000 to buy it. And then life is going to be great, bro. It's just $2,000. It'll be nothing once you
everything will be right. Yeah. We do want the easy, right? We do want it's efficiency, right? In a lot of ways, it's just how we're wired. It's survival. If I save calories because I don't have to work as hard, then my probability of survival is greater, right? Like I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to face whatever. If there's a shortage of food, a famine, whatever, it's just it's an old relic left over from another time in our head where we are always looking for an easier way. But what we have to do is fight that constantly. We don't have, it's kind of like that hierarchy of needs. You
Mm.
know, once we get higher up on that pyramid, life is so much easier that it also then becomes harder because we have everything we need. I mean, think about it. Like there's a microwave behind me and a fridge like I can turn on my tap right here behind me and get fresh water. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when think about even my grandmother had to go out to a well and draw water, you know, when they first were on their farm. And, you know, she was a young girl. And my aunt, my mom's sister, you know, they always tell the story about her. They joke about her vanity, you know, because she had this beautiful kind of auburn hair, red hair. And they always tell the stories about her as a 13, 14, you know, young teenager going out and washing her hair every morning under the pump in this ice cold water, you know, because she had to look good. And, but, you know, to that point though, think about it now. If I had to go draw water and pump water and, you know, I didn't
Once a
have,
month, man. Once
yeah,
a month.
yeah, it's life is so easy now that it becomes hard. Simple, you know, I get a blister, you know, because I'm out for a run and my $200 running shoes aren't broken yet, and I get
Must be nice.
and I get a blister, so I have a hissy fit, you know, and send off a hateful email to let them know that their product isn't what they guaranteed. That I'd just be able to put it on and run. Think about that for a second. You know, like you're crying about shoes giving you a blister on a run that was of your own choosing. It wasn't because something chased you. It wasn't because you
Right.
were having to chase something down.
You're
You
so
know,
overfed that you have to go run for nothing just to burn off the excess calories.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I'm like, man, we have it so good, and we forget that. And yeah, to just to that point though, it's just I think we look for those hacks because it's in us to because our body, you know, that part of our brain remembers that time where you just don't know what's going to happen next. Conserve, conserve, conserve. And the problem is that we don't have to any longer because we're so high up on that hierarchy of needs that we need to find ways, like the Masogi, we need to find ways to challenge ourselves, to push ourselves, to see what we're made of, to see
Mm.
what am I capable of, and surprise ourselves. I think who you really are and who you are now might not be the same. So figure it out. Like peel off those layers of conditioning, peel off those layers that society has put on you. And by society, you know, Jill and I talked about that one time. We're like, what do people mean when they say society? What does that actually mean? And that's us. It's me. It's you. It's the people around us. It's our circle. The people that raised us. All that. It's not some mystical thing out here in the ether. It's actually us. Like you talk about it all the time. Like we, the people, is us. You know, if you're going to
Yeah.
cry about the government, you're part of it. You are it. You know, we, the people. So it's the same with that. If whatever layers have been put on you, that person that told you that's just not for you, you're not capable of that, you're not good enough for that, you people like you don't get to do that, all those things, it's just BS.
Mm.
And you have to find ways to push yourself, challenge yourself, and then realize, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I just had one of my clients, part of the program that I do with people is we do gut checks. And her gut check was 100 burpees every day for 3 weeks. And in the
That's a lot
beginning,
of burpees.
that's a lot of burpees. In the beginning, she couldn't do it. Well, she did it, but it took her like an hour to get it done. And she would have to walk her legs back. She couldn't jump. But by the end, she was doing burpees and she's flying. Like she's literally, it looks like she's doing like a pike, you know, like popping up in the air and jumping. And she said, you know, prior to this, I've never even done a burpee. I've never done anything like this. And now I'm doing 100, just banging them out. I feel like there isn't anything I can't do. I feel like if you put something in front of me and tell me I can do it, I can do it. And that's what we want, right? That's what we want to do for people. And that's what we want to reveal to people. It's like, I want to introduce you to who you really are, not who society told you you should be, not who your mom told you you should be, or anybody else that ever held you down. Like, I want you to realize that we are this amazing, incredible machine that can get it done. If we just need an avenue. And the problem is that we also enjoy the luxuries of all these things. So it's this constant battle of, I want to live in a nice house. I want to live in a nice area with nice stuff, nice cars, nice everything. But I also want to know what I'm made of. And the only way for me to find out what I'm made of is I got to go out here and do this crazy stuff that reveals me to me, you know?
You're talking earlier about the like bad attitude, watching people that are maybe kicking ass.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even, it's not a bad attitude, but it's not like the healthiest way of looking at it. I was talking with a youngster the other day, trained with the kid before. He's a good kid, 20 years old, very muscular, and a gray haired old guy is beating him up. And I'm joking with him, I'm goading him, as I'm like rape choking him. You'll never beat me. And he was like going harder and harder. So I'm like bear hugging him, holding him, giggling. And I'm like, dude, of course you're going to beat me. Like, I'm 25 years older than you. Eventually, I'm going to be old. And that's the only time you'll ever. And I'm joking. I'm like, it's the only day. And then I stopped though. We're done and we're screwing around. I said, bro, you've been here for like doing this for a couple months. Like, no matter how much you will something, like you can't be upset because somebody else has done, like if Chris with his paintings and stuff, like I've never painted in my life. I can't be like, I wish I could do that when he's done it for years and years and years, or somebody that's a guitarist or a stockbroker or anything. It's a weird thing. It's kind of, this is where I was going. It's kind of been helpful for me as just like an attitude adjustment to look at somebody and say, man, I bet they spent a long time to be able to do that. And like, that's really cool. I bet if I spent that much time, I could probably be good at that too. Am I willing to spend that much time to be good at playing a fucking kazoo or whatever the hell the thing is? You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, it's that thing that Carolyn Dweck talks about in Mindset, the book about growth mindset, where she talks about these kids who looked at something as a challenge, looked at it as, well, I'll figure it out. I just got to keep trying. Versus other kids who looked at it and their default was, I guess I'm just not good at it, and they quit. And that's the thing. Like for you, you're looking at somebody and you're like, well, I don't have the desire to do that. But I could if I just put the time in.
Did she talk about why some of them had that mindset?
I can't remember. I'd have to read the book.
It wasn't overt. It wasn't like the point of the article or the.
No, it was just, yeah, the book was more about just what separates these kids from these kids. What separates one group from the other? The group that gets it done, that approaches this puzzle or this, this assignment as a challenge and fun, and this other group who just gets demoralized, And I think there has to be, and it's a mental shift. We can consciously do it. We have to go into something and say, look, I'm looking forward to failing as often as I can, as quickly as I can, so I can figure out what works. Versus, I want to do this one time and get it. I tell my people in my jiu-jitsu classes, I tell them when I teach the beginners, I don't teach beginners classes too much any longer, but when I would teach the beginners, I would tell them at least once a week, look, how long did it take you to learn how to ride a bike? The first time you tried to ride a bike, you fell over. Did somebody just walk up and take the bike away and go, hey, it's not for you, man. Obviously you're stupid. It's not for you. or yeah, right.
I'm only 4.
Yeah, you're an idiot, But or even better, like walking. Think about what happens when a kid walks. A kid's first learning to walk, nobody sees the kid take a step and fall down or take two steps and topple over because their head's big and, they're just like, yeah, they just like fall over. Nobody ever, to my knowledge, has walked over that kid and go, maybe walking's not for you, man. Try something else. Stick with crawling. No, what do? They celebrate the two good
Yeah.
steps.
Good job.
Yeah, they took their first step. Yeah, I'm like, big deal. I've been taking my first step every morning. Nobody celebrates me, you know.
And
But
I pooped in my diaper without help.
exactly. But that's the thing. So I try to express that to people. Listen, and that's the growth mindset piece. I'm going to fail until I don't. I'm going to try and try and try. And the more rapidly I can fail, the more quickly I will get to what works. I will discover by default what works. And if I have good guidance, I have a good coach in there. If you're watching me, like I got a 1911 here, 2 world wars. But no, I signed up for an IDPA match. So I gotta train a little bit with this thing.
Nice.
But if I'm gripping it like this, and I got my other hand like this, you're going to correct me. Like I could go out and shoot 1,000 rounds and eventually figure out I should probably be up here, probably have my thumb on the safety, probably fill that in. I should maybe after 1,000, maybe 10,000, right? Or maybe I quit because I'm like, this sucks, Or I can fail, have you step up, correct, fail, and by the end of the day, I'm actually starting to do really well because I wasn't demoralized by failure. I was encouraged by failure because it meant I'm closer to how to actually do it. I'm figuring this out. And the other thing too is I can look left and right and see other people doing it and go, if they can do it, I can do it. It's just a matter, like you said, it's just a matter of reps and time. So I'm going to just suck it up and drive on. I'm going to keep getting my reps in, keep listening to my coach, keep doing what I'm told. And eventually I'm going to have that breakthrough and I'm going to figure it out. And that I think is the most important piece. And we can see that with kids, kids have that incessant desire to walk. Kids don't fall down over and over and over again and they just stop. It's a drive. They want to walk, and a lot of kids too with the bike, right? They see all their friends riding a bike. They want to ride a bike, I don't know what kids ride now. I don't see kids riding bikes anymore. So I don't know.
Now they're on electric things.
Yeah. Or they're on their computer, not doing anything. So
You posted something, maybe it was yesterday. It's a picture of you with your shirt off as per usual. Hey, look at me, I'm Paul Sharp, my shirt's off. But you had wrote on there that at the time that the pictures were taken, you were in like this dark place with bad thoughts in your head all day. What was that all about?
my emo post. I try to make one emo post a week. Just one. I listen to The Cure and get all emo-y. No, so I was going through a divorce, and the divorce was not something I wanted. It's not something I would have ever thought would happen, and it was extremely abnormal circumstances, and there was nothing I could do about it. Like I had any choice I had in the matter was completely removed from me, and just all the stuff, not being able to, the thought of not being able to see my kids at night, not being able to tuck my kids in and say goodnight to them or wake them up in the morning when I got home from work because I work midnights. So it was kind of perfect. I could see them before when they go to bed, and then I could see them, I'd get home before they wake up, and just all that stuff, the day-to-day stuff that we all take for granted. And it just started getting to me. And I started drinking. I never drank before. I say kind of a straight edge kid, but it basically was like, I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I've never smoked weed. I've never done anything like that. And
what's up, Ted Nugent?
What's that?
So what's up, Ted Nugent? That's his speech.
Yeah. And so I had like this kind of, I don't know what happened. Just somewhere in there, I was like, you know what? and I just started partying. And I started the weekends that I didn't have my kids or they weren't around, I would just go party. And I would just,
That's weird, man, at that age.
yeah, yeah. I was in my 30s, late 30s, mid to late 30s, and I just started losing my mind and just getting in a really bad space. And I just went further and further into it. And then one day I'm like, I might be really close to having a problem here, you know? And because the other problem too with me is I can't just do a little bit of something. I got to do a lot of it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I can't just have a beer. I've got to have all the beer. And then also, why would I drink?
I don't understand that, but okay. I
Yeah,
want to puke.
right. Well, also to that point, why would I want beer when I can drink this vodka and Red Bull, which after three of these, I'm going to be feeling it, but I'm also going to be energized and just like, wow, out of my mind, crazy. Yeah, it was not a good mix, not a good time. But the thing is, alcohol is a depressant. So here I am battling these thoughts of like, my life is so terrible. My life is just screwed up. And also now I'm feeding something into my system that
Mm.
feeds into that, you know. And on the outside, I was in good shape. I was still competitive. I was still training. I was shooting a lot. I was active in all these different areas. I was doing all this cool stuff. But man, on the inside, I was just dying on a daily basis. Like I'd wake up, I'd have to talk myself into getting out of bed. I'd have to talk myself into just get through this day. Like things will get better. I literally would have this mantra rolling through my head of it gets better. It gets better. It always gets better. Like life gets better. And I remember I had a friend, I was sitting there and I actually had it on my computer as a screensaver. Like it always gets better. And so at work, and a friend was standing there and he saw it and he goes, it doesn't get better. We just get tougher. Like we get better at dealing with it. It doesn't get better. I remember getting pissed, just being like, you got to be a dick about everything. And he just like looks at me and
I'm
like,
trying to,
oh,
I'm trying to get through the day over here. You just,
yeah, but it's true. It's very true. We get better. Like life, the circumstances might not change, but if we change ourselves, then we change how we view the circumstance and how we approach it. And that's basically what happened. I had a moment where I realized this isn't going to get better. I'm, I'm, I can't say I'm depressed because I don't want to take that lightly. I have friends, my best friend killed himself in 2005. And so I don't want to take that lightly. I don't want to ever be like, oh, I'm so depressed. And like, I'm having a bad string of days, a bad couple years, but I'm not, there's no chemical imbalance in my head that's making it so I can't possibly see a way out other than, doing something to myself. So I wasn't quite there, but I was getting there. I was having those days where I'm like, you know what would be like, it might be best if I just wasn't around. Like, my kids would probably be better if they didn't have to be in this. Like me being in this environment is just making it more confusing for my kids and
hmm.
everything else. And so I did struggle, and I just, I finally had a moment. I ended up in the hospital with pancreatitis, and they removed my gallbladder and all this stuff. And I was there for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And the irony is that I had stopped drinking about 2 or 3 weeks before that. And, but the damage had been done, and I ended up in the hospital. They did all this stuff for me. I was septic, sepsis, whatever it's called. My stomach
How
was on
much were you freaking drinking?
pretty much every day. I was going out and partying because like in Chicago, there's always a club open. There's
Mm-hmm.
always something. So if I wasn't working and I didn't have my kids, I was gone. I was downtown partying. So it was not good. Or I was just in the city where I lived. I would find some place there and go party. There's always somewhere open. And so I realized like this is starting to get bad and I'm contributing to it. You know, I can't change the circumstances. I can change my response to the circumstances. So let me
Victor
eliminate
Frankl.
this. Yeah, exactly. Right. So let me change this thing that I'm adding to the equation that's not positive, not helping me at all. It's not serving me. Let me get rid of this and let me continue. And you got to imagine, like, I'm still running, I'm still lifting, I'm still rolling, I'm still doing all that stuff, but just so messed up, you know? And so I like, let me get rid of that. As soon as I got rid of it, I started feeling better. I started getting in better shape. It wasn't sore all the time. I wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
negative all the time. I wasn't just constantly like the world sucks. But then I got, I had to go to the hospital. So I just keep those pictures around. I don't keep a lot of pictures of me around. I keep pictures of like my friends. I keep pictures of like my family, my kids. I keep those around, but I don't keep a lot of pictures of me. But I do keep those just as a reminder of like, you've been there. So don't act like you haven't, you
Mm.
know? So when I see somebody struggle or whatever, it's like, you've been there, dude. Don't be a dick. Right. So yeah, that's what that was about. It's just a reminder every now and then that, and especially so social media is it's an interesting place, right? You can post something for the purpose of getting clicks and getting people to be like, oh, that's so cool, or you're so cool. You can post things to be educational, informational, right? And transformational. Like they can take this information, apply it, and begin to transform themselves. But then also there's the accountability piece. Because once it's posted, it never goes away. Even if you
Mm.
delete it, they can get on the Wayback Machine and find it. And so sometimes I'll post stuff like that as accountability. Like, hey man, I've been messed up too. Like I didn't always have everything great. Like I'm conscious every single day that everything can be taken away from me. I can wake up tomorrow, like when they tried to fire me from the police department. I can wake up tomorrow. I can go to sleep thinking everything's awesome. This is not a big deal. I'm good. And I can wake up tomorrow from a phone call from my attorney saying, hey, dude, just so you know, they're going to fire you. And my whole life can be changed. So I want to be conscious of that. And I like sometimes with those posts, it's just accountability. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
man, this is where I was. I will never go back there again, no matter what. I will never return to that state. But I also want people to know, like, I've been there, man. I get it, and it's also a reminder to me that when somebody comes to me and is like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I know I need to stop doing this, but I just can't stop. I've been that guy. I've been that guy, man. Like I get it. You have to get to a point in the process of change. There's change language, right? And there's 10 steps to the process of change, and there's 10 stages rather, and there's or 10 steps, and there's 5 actual stages of change. And one of those is where you're completely unaware, but other people around you begin to tell you, like, hey, man, I think you should slow down a little. And then there's the stage where you recognize, like, I should probably chill. And that's typically like for substance abuse, that's the guys that are like, hey, I'm just going to drink on the weekends. I'm going to stop on the weekdays, just on the weekends, or whatever the case may be, And it just, there's a progression through that. But it's a reminder to myself as well to be conscious of those folks. Like, look, encourage them, push them, tell them the truth. Like, don't lie to them. Don't be a cheerleader. Like, hit them with the hard truth. But also be aware that they have to come to that point of change at their own time, where like you don't want to see somebody bottom out. You don't want to see somebody hit rock bottom. And I never was at the point where I'm like sleeping on the street or homeless or anything like that. Thank God I never reached that point. But some people have to. Some people have to
Mm-hmm.
get to a point where they're like, man, how did I end up here? in a shelter or whatever it is, whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I think it's like, it's accountability. And sometimes it's just, I need to like be grateful. So that's all it is. It's just, sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, I've
I've
been
got too
fortunate.
many of those be grateful stories.
What's that?
I don't want to always go back there.
No, no. And I don't, that's what I mean. Like for the same
I
reason,
wasn't suggesting you were.
no, I get it. I totally get it. Like I don't like to, I'm a very forward thinker, just like you. Like it's like, what's next? Like
Yeah.
I don't spend any time talking about, remember this time in college or remember this time in whatever where I
No,
benched.
because I didn't go to college.
Yeah, exactly. or remember this time, I dunked a basketball and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's cool, bro. But what are you doing now?
Hmm.
What are you doing next? I'm always thinking that. I'm always thinking, what's next? What am I working on now that's going to be cool? Like I'm more interested in those conversations, but I do feel like at times it's good to just take a little moment and do some self-assessment, maybe an inventory,
Kind of look over your shoulder at the trail behind you.
yeah, and just think about like, man, I've made some mistakes, I've screwed some things up, maybe didn't do the right thing at the right time, was able to kind of pull something salvageable out of it. But in the future, or for other people that I'm helping, I'm coaching or whatever, it's like, well, let me share this with you so you understand where I'm coming from when I tell you this. I think it's valuable for that. But outside of
Hmm.
that, I don't like looking back. Same as you, right? It's like nobody cares.
It's a sad place. I mean, we've all known somebody that just lives there. I've got a couple friends that are dead. Two of them. They were both drunks. They both died of just being unhealthy. When one was in her 40s, one was in his 50s, and both of them every night, if you ran into them drunk, would just talk about bad stuff from when they were in high
Yeah.
school and in their 20s, and like one of them things was very tragic, but he just like swirled around this toilet drain, and then the booze just like was his crystal ball that he conjured the
Yeah.
images with, and then he'd
It
get,
enhances it.
yeah, just
Yeah.
opened up that box and would climb inside it till he passed out every night. It's like, wow, that's really a shitty way to like spend the last 20 years of your life, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, have you ever read any of Seligman's stuff?
Mm-mm.
It's spelled Seligman, and
I'll look it up.
he's kind of the father of positive psychology.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, you're familiar with it, and he talks about that a lot. Like if you had a wound on your arm and you constantly ripped it open, say once or twice a week, or maybe 3 times a week, you just went in and ripped that thing open. In a year, would you really be surprised that there's no healing? And
Mm,
that it's actually
mm,
worse. Or let's put some healing balm on there. And now let's talk about how do we work around this and use this as a lesson moving forward to propel us to the next place we want to be. And I think
mhm.
that's what happens to a lot of us. And when you add alcohol or some other depressant into the mix, it just makes the problem bigger. We just hyper focus. You've all been around that guy, that drunk that's just on repeat, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
easy for those things to become a habit. Like this morning, I got up, I did some stretching and push ups, I brewed some coffee, I checked my phone, and I catch myself like it's Groundhog's Day. I just looked at a calendar I make some notes on, and I'm like, where the frick did 2 weeks go? Like it felt like I haven't touched that calendar in 2 weeks because I've been on the road for 2 weeks. So
Oh
there's
yeah.
like these holes where it's like you step in and out of reality. Well, it's all reality, but I was going to bring something else up. I was thinking about it as you were talking. I was listening to you, but it reminded me of it. So you just said that like change takes there's 10 steps and 5 phases,
Stages, phases. Yeah. And I might
stages.
have that backwards. It might be the other way around.
whatever. It's not. I don't need to be specific for the points I'm going to make or maybe the question I'll pose. But like it, the Lombardi book again. He had another point in there. I was just listening to it last night, so the stuff's all fresh in my brain. Basically, he said by the second half of a man's life, all he's doing is acting out all of these habits that he spent the first half of his life creating. The old dog, new tricks thing, it's the same thing. The ancients talked about it. Uh, there's got to be, and everybody's different, right? Like you've admitted that you kind of go real deep into things. Somebody else might be a little more um, transient in their hobbies. But I'm driving last night. I've got a road trip, and I'm in the car alone. I'm listening to some tunes, and some reason in my playlist, um, uh, Whitney Houston singing the Star Spangled Banner at the Super Bowl, whatever, 30 years ago, comes up. And then the one with Chris Stapleton a couple years ago. I must have been listening to it and it somehow made its way into a playlist. And I sat and listened to both of them. And I listened to them a couple more times, just listening to their vocals and in awe of their vocals. And I thought, I shut it off and I'm just driving in silence. And I was like, wow, a minute and 30-second a cappella song can like immediately reframe your thinking. You get teary eyed driving, listening to the anthem, and you're looking at all these stud athletes like we were talking about when we started, all proud holding their hats or helmets or whatever. And I thought, wow, what a cool like set point. I'm going to do something. I'm working on it right now with some of that music. And we have these things like a mantra or a prayer book or exercise or whatever. Like, what are some things that you like to change your attitude or to help people to have a quick attitude adjustment besides the belt, you sicko?
Yeah. Um, yeah, like to change the state. I like exercise. I feel like the physical movement, it just releases all those feel good hormones. You don't get the
But I
oxytocin.
don't feel like getting up. I mean, that's the problem, though, right? I don't feel like it.
I don't feel like it. Yeah, you just have to tell yourself feelings lie. Once you get moving, you'll feel like it. I tell people all the time, just go to the gym. Just go. You don't have to train. You don't have to get on the mat. You don't have to touch a weight, but just go. And I guarantee you, by the time you get there, you'll feel like it. By the time you get in there and you start walking around and just do one round, just one 5-minute round. And by the time they do that, inevitably, they end up feeling better, their mood changes, and they're glad they came. They're glad they showed up. And just around the house during the day and when I'm working or doing different stuff, I'll just do some burpees, push-ups, I'll shadow box, as dumb as that looks I'll just move around and, just to move and just to get that dopamine, the serotonin, the endorphin. If you roll with somebody else, then you'll get the oxytocin, right? So we call that dose, right? Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. So come get your dose is what I tell people.
Which
And
also comes from
hugging, right? Oxytocin is the hugging. Yeah, it's the hugging
mm-hmm.
hormone. So yeah, it's like, but just get up and move, man. You're gonna feel so much better. And once you start moving, it's easier to stay moving. You build that momentum. And I would tell people, like, listen, just tell yourself things in motion tend to stay in motion. And just repeat that to yourself that once I get moving, it'll be easier to move. And inevitably, they tell me, yeah, you were right. Once I got moving, just get up, do 10 air squats, 10 push ups, 10 sit ups, repeat that 5 times. Just cycle through that 5 times, get your whole body moving. And now try to write or have a conversation or whatever the case may be. You're going to find that you're going to feel much more engaged. You're going to feel much more present. You're going to feel like you're where you are, and then you'll be more effective. That's the thing. I think just like with the programming, like with what I do with the coaching program is like we change the mental through the physical. I use the physical exercise, and we've talked about that before, right? Like physical is the easiest way to change the mental. Like if you want to develop a killer mindset, let's go run a marathon right now. Just as you are, unprepared, whatever you ate today is what you ate, doesn't matter. 4 hours from now or 5 hours from now, however long it takes us, we're going to do 26 miles. And at 26.2, might have to walk it, might have to crawl it, but we're going to do it. Guess what? On the other side of that 26.2 is going to be a different animal than the one that's standing in front of me right now, because I introduced you to another side of your mind and your mental state, your mental capacity through physical exercise. And I think that's so important.
How many people do you think could just go do that though, and not like blow a knee out or frickin' hurt themselves? I've never ran that far continuously. I don't really care for that type of physical exercise. That's why God gave me a diesel pickup truck. All right.
I got a truck, right? I'll meet you there. I'll drive. I think everybody, man, barring some, something way out of the ordinary. I think everybody. I've done marathons with cancer patients, like guys with a port in their chest on the line standing next to me, and just the jog up to the starting line, because you're in corals and you kind of work your way up to the line, and just standing in the line working their way up, I can hear them wheezing. I'm hearing them having difficulty breathing, and like in that case, I said to the guy, I'm like, you good, bro? And he's like, yeah. He goes, this is just packed in here with all these people around, and I've only got one lung, so it's hard to breathe.
Wow.
Like, yeah, no problem. And he finished. It might not be pretty, it might not be 6-minute mile pace. It might be 20-minute mile pace, because he walked a lot, but he finished. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters for his present condition and state. That's all that matters. So that's why I say, it's like, I don't care if you have to crawl it, but you have to finish. And once people see they could do that, they're unstoppable. You open a door into their head that they didn't know. There's rooms, right? They open doors and find other rooms in their head they didn't know existed. And they're like, okay, so I could be this superhero. I could be this thing that I thought only other people could be. I am capable of that. And I think that's so important. That's so valuable. And it's addictive as a coach, because once you start introducing people to that and they start doing it, you want to do more of it. It becomes like this passion that you just want to do it to everybody. Like, I just want to drive down the street in my truck, throw a rope around somebody, be like, hey dude, let's go. Right?
That's illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah, it's highly illegal. But I do think that guy in 20 miles would be like, I'm going to kill you. I'm calling the cops. I'm going to kill you. But also, I just ran 20 miles, because the alternative was I'm going to get dragged, So, but not that I would do that, but I just feel like you get that side, you see that side of people come out, and it just becomes this like mission where you want people to see, like, man, like you've experienced it when you help somebody who's like, I can't stand, I can't kneel, I can't lay, and then return to standing and shoot. And then you walk them through it and they end up being able to do it. Or you have somebody show up for a class and they have some sort of impairment, where it's difficult for them to do this exercise or do this movement. Then you figure a workaround, and then they say, okay, maybe I'm not, back to our earlier example, right? Like, maybe I'm not playing basketball like Michael Jordan, but I'm playing basketball. When yesterday I didn't think I could. See, that's valuable. That's an incredible gift to give to somebody. Like, what price tag do you put on that? I just introduced you to a side of yourself you didn't know exist. And now you can take that same energy, that same level of savagery, and apply it to maybe doing better at work so you get paid more, maybe being a better dad, maybe being a better spouse, husband, boyfriend, whatever, being a better friend, being more of a brother to the people in your circle, like creating a brotherhood instead of being the one that's always whatever, like a negative energy train to everybody. Like, now you can be a contributor. So once you turn it on, most people don't want it turned off.
Mm-hmm.
They get
How do you
addicted.
deal with negative people in your life? Friends, family, coworkers, coffee sellers at the coffee shop, you know, the cop that pulled you over for tying a rope around somebody that's totally cramping your style.
I'm like, you don't understand my mission, bro. I'm helping
Yeah.
this guy, you know?
What's your default for that kind of stuff?
For negative people, I don't feed
Mhm.
into it. I don't even respond to it.
No.
No, I will not feed into it. I won't respond to it. I won't even, I'll just act as if I didn't hear it. I will
So like
not. I mean,
if like a friend or a buddy texts you some negative bullshit, dude, did you see this? What a douche. And it's just some like bullshit thing. How do you just don't respond to them, or do you have a
yeah, I don't,
response?
I typically don't respond. I typically, and I don't have anybody in my circle that does that. Like the only time we've ever like, the only time I can recall anybody like you or anybody else in my circle that we've sent each other something like that, it's usually been, dude, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Like something
Mhm.
unsafe, like
Mhm.
more of like, am I right in thinking this doesn't look right?
Mhm.
Like help me understand what I'm looking at. But never, I don't really have those people in my circle. And it's just, I think over time, it's just been a weeding out process too. Because if you send me something negative every day and I never respond, you probably get the hint.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to see that. I'm not interested in participating in that. And if I respond back with something different, you know, if say somebody sends me something like, look at this guy, he's a piece of shit, what's he think, who's he think he is, why is he teaching this? I'll typically, if it's somebody that I know and I'm just like, this is out of character, I'll be like, do you know this guy? Is there some beef or something? What's going on? Like, why are you so spanked up about what somebody else is doing? Who cares? It doesn't
Mhm.
affect you directly. Um, but if it typically somebody else, I will either not respond or I will change the subject. I would just start. I'll respond with something else. Like I'll start talking about something else because I don't want to spend any time on something that's not productive, something
That's
that's
not
not helpful.
helping. At some point, might you have to say like, "Hey, man, what you doing?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There have been times where I've just been like, man, is this good for you? Like, is this good? Like, how is this helping? And how is this in any way
It
like
makes
why is
me feel better.
yeah, why does it matter? And then typically that's when you'll get into and it's like, look, the only reason you're upset about it is because you perceive that they're doing something you're not. They're having
Mhm.
some success that you're not. They're,
Kind of back to where we started.
yeah, like the worst of Ayn Rand in one of her essays, she wrote that the worst human emotion is envy.
Mm.
It's not because from envy, everything else springs, right? If I'm envious of you, but I suppress that emotion, eventually over time, it's going to come out. It's going to bubble out. There's going to be like some passive aggressive comments. There's the must be nice type stuff. There's going to be excuse making to others, never to you, right? But to others. Like, yeah, he's just good at that. But that's because he's a trust fund kid. And all he has is time, right? Because he doesn't have to worry about paying bills. I got to work. And the thousands of excuses and stories we create to excuse our inability to achieve excellence. And so that's the thing. So over time, when I look into it, when I boil it down, it always just comes down to envy. Like they're doing something that you wish you could be doing, and you're just mad about it. So what can we do to help you get there? If that's truly what you want. And are you willing to make the sacrifices they may have made? Are you willing to put the work in? Like you drive all over the country. How many miles have you put on your truck this year?
58,000
58,000 miles pulling a trailer.
since January. Yes, sir.
Yeah, since January. So what is that? 9 months,
Yeah.
58,000 miles pulling a trailer. How many tires have you changed?
I'm on my second set on the truck and a second set on the trailer, maybe third.
Yeah.
I
And how many?
I bought 6 sets of tires between 3 different vehicles.
Right. And how many flats have you had to change on the side of the road? You're swapping out a flat.
5 to 10.
How many
Yeah.
times? How many times on a range have you had somebody point a gun at you, a student?
413,200.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm just joking.
So,
But yeah.
all right. So then I could have somebody be like, "Hey, this is bullshit, Mickey. Fill in the blank. These are the reasons why I don't think he should be experiencing the success he's experiencing." I'm like, okay, well, how do we get you there? Well, here's what you're going to have to do. For the next year, you're going to have to put thousands of miles on your car, driving all over the country, maybe teaching classes to only 4 people in the beginning, 6 people in the beginning. I mean, a big class will be 10 people in the beginning, and you're going to do that weekend after weekend after weekend. And you're going to do that for 5, 6 years nonstop, no breaks. Every available weekend you have, you're going to be doing this in addition to working a regular job. So is that what you're willing to do? And if they say anything but yes, then it's like, okay, well, let's move on. The rest of your conversation is just gossip. You're being a yenta, and we're done.
What's a yenta?
A grandma.
Is
Yiddish
that,
for
is that Yiddish? How do you know
yeah.
about that?
I'm half Jew.
Oh, me too. Shalom.
Yes.
Shalom.
Long as it's, hey, one thing I don't have to worry about is a pager, right? So, no, my grandmother's name was Mensch. So like Ubermensch. So
Yeah.
like their name was Mensch. So German Jew, hardcore German Jew. But that's how I handle that stuff. I just tell people like, look, unless you're willing to do what they have had to do to get where they are, stop talking. Because now it's a different kind of thing. It's a different kind of conversation. And I don't want to participate. I don't want to be in it.
I kind of use that similar thing with myself. If I feel envious, even if it's not like a overtly negative thing, like if I feel like a negative emotion as I'm looking at somebody, I understanding what I understand in the limited capacity of business and um, finances and sales and stuff, you can look at somebody and go, even if I don't like him or I think he sounds stupid or whatever, you can't fake whatever. And it doesn't have to be shooting. It could be like targets don't lie. The mat doesn't lie. The timer doesn't lie. And like somebody could create like a Ponzi scheme. It's fake, but they still put in a bunch of work to do it. And there's a penalty when you get caught for doing evil. But if somebody's out there like a band, right? They suck. I don't like them. Well, somebody does if they're selling tickets and selling records and so you can't like fake that. You might not like the music, you might not like their attire or whatever, but and you can recognize that for what it is. Like the bar, the weight doesn't lie. I interviewed Ed Cohn, and the stuff he was talking about, like a segue. How'd you get so strong? He said he would figure out. He wasn't trying to lift more weight. He was figuring out the weakest muscles in his chains of muscles and realized this one lift, there's one little back muscle that was sore. So that one must be weak. So he went and spent 3 months working this little muscle group out. And then another one was the weakest one. And like, you can't fake that.
No. Yeah, there's no way around. You got to do the work. There's no way around that. And if somebody, what's that?
I just said,
Yeah, if somebody's experiencing some success in an area, they've definitely put the work in. You know, I mean, we can attribute their success to a whole bunch of things, but in the world that we live in, if you are experiencing success, you've done the work. There's no way around it.
Now, I will, because you've been talking about me, I will say for the listener, I'm just passing on, for the most part, information guys like you have passed on to me. So it's pretty easy to be a vessel of information. I'm basically acting as a web page or a paper, a page in a book, relaying data, but doing it looking really fucking good,
Yeah,
basically.
looking amazing, amazing hair. I'm jealous. I'm just envious of the hair.
What?
You're still
Dude,
good, man.
I posted on the Gunfighter Gun Oil Instagram page this morning. Kanan got a new puppy, and I'm out in the driveway playing with it. And Kanan filmed me, and the sun is bright overhead, so my
Yeah.
hair looks about as white as the SBG logo on your shirt. And I'm like, I'm not that white, and there's like a bald spot. I just got a
Yeah.
haircut, and she gave me like a scalp job. So I'm like, I don't have a bald spot, and my hair is not that white. And Kanan's like, well, clearly it is. Look at it in the video.
Film doesn't lie, bro. Video doesn't
Yeah.
lie.
Jerk. Jerk. How
No.
do people find you? You and your wife do some coaching, you do some teaching. How do people find you to hook up with that stuff?
Yeah, just my name, paulsharpcoaching.com. So if you look
Paul
up Paul
Sharp
Sharp Coaching,
Coaching.
Paul Sharp Coaching, all one word.com, and that'll take you right to me. And then all the links for social media, all that stuff's on there. Jill's stuff is on there too.
SHARP, not the E.
No E. They dropped the E. So I don't know. They thought that would fool people. So
And you are at SBG Idaho in Boise. So if somebody's in that region,
yeah, come train with me. Yeah, we do. I coach classes every single day except for Sunday. Sunday's open mat. So I'll be there at noon on Sundays, but come through, man. Come train with me. Just hit me up on social media if you're visiting in the area. Hit me up on social media and feel free to drop in. And any of the classes we have Muay Thai, boxing, judo, wrestling, MMA, and jiu-jitsu. And we do gi, no gi, all that good stuff. So come on in and just do some work. And if you've never trained before and you want to, that's even better. Come jump in on a beginner's class. I'll take the beginner's class with you if I'm not coaching at the same time, and we'll have some fun. And I love introducing people to this stuff.
I like that. You'll be with me in November, and Z and Rob and a bunch of other good dudes in Nashville. That'll
Yeah,
be fun.
that's going to be fun. We were looking at
Inst-
a Jill's she was a river guide rafting. Like she's taking people down through some gnarly. I had no idea. Like
I remember her telling me that one time. I didn't know that about her either.
yeah, like if people like she knows some of those rivers like the back of her hand. Like you'll hear her and people talking, and she's like, "Yeah, those rapids, they do this and they go here." It's pretty impressive. But there's some spots in Tennessee we want to check out. So I'm looking forward to S12.
What's with these chicks? Like Leah Stump was also a river raft guide as well.
He was a
I've
ranger.
gone on some rafting stuff with her a couple times, and usually the guides are like, "Does anybody have any experience in a raft before?" And she's like, and they're like, "What?" She's like, "I was a guide," and they're like, "Really?" Like, what's
And then
with
they
these
have that.
chicks?
Yeah, and then they have that inside language where they start talking, and you're like,
Right,
I don't
I'm right
know.
here.
Yeah, I don't know what anybody's saying right now, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds real cool.
Yeah, Leah was a federal park ranger or something too, right?
Yeah, up in Alaska and a couple other
Yeah,
cool
that's
spots.
crazy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's wild, man. Yeah, it's pretty
Tough
cool.
chicks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to S12, man. It's always a highlight. It is, and again, not blowing smoke, which is an interesting saying, but
What does it
yeah.
mean, I wonder, blowing smoke up? And actually, the whole phrase is, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass.
Because in the 17th century, they would blow smoke up
Hey,
some.
man, is that warm smoke that you're blowing into my rectum right
Yeah.
now? Why, yes, it is.
Yeah, what are you doing by my butt, bro? They would blow smoke up somebody's butt to resuscitate them.
Mm.
Yeah. And
I'm going
the
to try that when I see you in November. I'm going to bring a big stogie or like a Gandalf pipe. I'm going to get a big Gandalf pipe.
get one of those bellows. One of those bellows like you use for the fire.
Princess Bride.
That would be so terrible.
So they would blow tobacco smoke up a person's
Or
anus?
some kind of smoke. Yeah, they would blow something up your
So
butt.
was it like an ass to mouth situation?
I don't know. Like,
Or was there a
strange
tube?
enough.
Like, did you get like a reed from like a swamp edge and trim the reed's
I don't
edge? And
know. I don't know why I go down these rabbit holes. Like a couple of weeks ago, again, Jill surprised me, amazed me. I go, who said well-behaved women seldom make history? I go,
hmm,
I see this attributed to Gloria Steinem, Eleanor Roosevelt, and she goes, neither. It was said
that
by
was,
this
who was it?
a Mormon woman, Laurel. I can't remember her name now, but she's still alive, and she wrote a book called The Midwife's Tale.
Hmm.
And she was an iconoclast within the Mormon church because she wanted women clergy. She pushed back on polygamy. She was one of the first women to speak out about polygamy, all these things. But it's interesting if you read her story and her interviews and stuff. She's a really interesting lady. And I would like to meet her before she's getting up there. But Jill knew all about it. Jill's like, this is the
You're gonna
person
go
that's,
find her?
yeah, yeah. She's in New Hampshire, I believe.
I've actually heard that quote attributed to Katharine Hepburn. So the internet, people just write whatever now.
Yeah, but it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so I go down these rabbit holes where I'm like, wait, where did this saying come from? What does it actually mean? And so, fortunately or unfortunately, I did that with blowing smoke up your butt. I'm like, who does like drinking cow's milk? Like, how did that come about? Some dude one day is walking by a cow, is like, hey, you know what I need right now? A drink. You know,
Mhm. I need a drink.
you know,
Some of that white water. Water.
or a goat. Some guy sees a goat and it's like, hey, you know what I need? A drink. Like, bro, you're sick. Stop. But
I don't know.
yeah,
I
but
used
yeah,
to squirt goat's milk at my brother's face. My little brothers would be in the barn. We'd be milking the goats. I could launch milk 25 feet and
just
whack
hit
them
them,
in the face.
just nail
Yeah.
them. But yeah, that's where that came from. They would blow smoke up somebody's butt. Some of the contraptions look like billows from like fireplace. Like they would open it to pull the smoke out and then insert and then blow
I
smoke.
guess if you were like revivable and there was something you needed some
Well, yeah,
stimuli,
smoke.
that just having your butthole probed around might wake you up a little bit. What are you doing?
That's gonna wake me up. But also, smoke is hot. So
Right.
now I'm blowing this heat up that's hotter than your body core temperature up your butt. Who thought of this? What guy was like, hey, you know what'll work? It had to be a drunk thing. Like some dude was passed out drunk, and they're like,
Get
oh,
his
we gotta
legs
wake him up.
spread.
We
Get
gotta
his
wake him
legs
up.
spread.
And then the one guy there is like, hey, I got an idea. So how do we end up here?
On that note, I'm going to end this, but that does always make me chuckle. Like I've got a hippie sister that's always bringing up like ancient medicine, like
Yeah,
they were always smarter then. Wouldn't it
right.
be funny if like the paramedics arrived and they just like started pulling people's pants off? Like, I'm a doctor, get out of the way.
Yeah. See the guy firing up a cigarette. What are
I
you
own
doing?
I
I
own a
wake him up.
cigarette store. Back up. I got this.
I got to save this guy's life. It involves the
Dude,
smoke.
vapes don't work, bro. Get out of the way.
It's got to be
That's pretty,
Marlboro Red. It's got to be
that's pretty
Marlboro
funny.
Red.
I interrupted you though. You were about to say, "Don't blow smoke up my ass" about S12. That's where we were
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like it is the best conference out there. And having been at a bunch of different conferences, the reason I think it's the best one is because it is it has a there's a purpose. Like you don't just show up. Like I've been to tactical officer conferences. I've been to conferences like that where they have breakout sessions, and you go to a couple main lectures, and then there's all this stuff on bays where you can shoot this gun or this H&K's got a thing over here on this bay, and Beretta or Glock has a thing over here, and all these different ranges, and you go home with a swag bag and not much else. Like there's no knowledge transfer, no and in a time where information is so easy to find, if you have an internet connection, you got all the information you need. But what people need is transformation. They need to change. They need something that's going to shake them up and make them want to go home and be better. And a lot of these conferences are informational, but they're not transformational. And I think S12 is overall it is the only transformational conference of its type, especially in the gun world, so to speak.
I don't disagree with that, but I haven't been to all of them, so I can't.
It's marginally on the gun world, right? Because it's not all shooting. It's about being capable everywhere. Like every time you guys talk to them, like after dinner, there's a time where you guys, do a presentation.
I think you mean we guys, since you're one of those people.
Yeah, we guys. You talk to these guys and share with them and call them up to be better and all that's like, that doesn't happen at other conferences. That does not happen. And you don't go into these other conferences. You don't come out of these other conferences going, man, how do I get, like, I know now how to be better. I know now who I should have been all along. How many times do we have guys come to S12 and leave doing that over the next year, becoming a better person? And also, you have guys that return and you don't even recognize them. You have guys that come back and you're like, holy cow, bro. Like, you lost another person. Like, we've
had multiple dudes lose 50 to 100 pounds.
Yeah. And they start training, they start doing all the stuff. And so to me, that's why I say it's more than just information. It's how to change yourself for the better. And you get an actionable plan. Like, this is what you do every single day moving forward, and create better habits and become a better person. And I say man because it's predominantly dudes, but women are there. Like, there's usually 6, 7,
5, 6,
yeah. So it's one of those things. So it's one of my favorite. It's a highlight, man. I love being there. I love being part of it and helping people grow.
I love you being there too. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You guys that tuned in, I hope you enjoyed chatting with Paul and I, mostly Paul. And well, no, I mean, that's why you're here. It's not because that's why, otherwise it would just be me talking. If you haven't checked him out on social media, do so. Your Instagram is paul.sharp.
Paul_.
I always, it auto populates, so I don't remember.
Yeah, it just fills in for itself. It's paul.sharp.coaching.
See, I thought so.
Yeah, you're right.
Coaching. And consider shooting him an email and telling him all your problems.
Yes. And I'll respond with go run.
I'm just joking. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Be well, don't be dickheads. If you found some value in it, share it with others. And hopefully we see you soon. Be well.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.